Because Rosie is the U.S. Treasurer. She signs these things. We're going to talk about these two particular pieces of currency in detail later on. But first, I want you to notice that she signs these pieces of currency. Rosie, did you have to practice? How did you get it right?
Well, I have probably the second sassiest daughter, I think, in the world. So my daughter, who was 8 at the time when I was nominated for this position in May of 2009, she immediately gave me that lined paper that you get in 2nd grade with the big fat dashes. She gave me a whole pad of it, and she wanted me to begin practicing because she thought my writing was just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So she wanted to make sure I was prepared. And so sure enough, on my very first day, which was the first week of August of 2009, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing was literally waiting at my door for me to sign, even before I even walked into my office. So there they were waiting, and they gave me the option of take your time, sign as much as you want, and then pick one.
Right.
So it took me about 6 pages to pick one. And to this day, my daughter says that the second T in my middle name is too high and I need to resubmit. So it's still not.
She's probably right. You're also apparently a celebrity in Guam as a result of all this. Explain that.
So my husband's father, my father-in-law, is from Guam. And
a political family from Guam.
So my husband's cousin was the governor of Guam. But his last name, my husband's last name is Gumatautau, which is my middle name. And by the way, it means man of the house, in case anyone wants to know. So his last name is my middle name. And so the way we do it with my kids is my name is Rosa Gumatautau Rios. My kids are Joey and Brooke Rios Gumatautau. So apparently by signing as Gumatautau, it is the first time in the history of U.S. currency that there is a Chamorro name on the currency.
That's incredible. So they like you there.
Apparently so.
So I want to just start back with your childhood, which again is truly extraordinary. You were one of 9 children, a single mom, a farm worker. Tell me about her.
So yes, my parents came to the U.S. in 1958. My mom and dad had most of us here. There were 9 of us. There's about an 11-year age difference between the youngest and the oldest. So there's 2 of the older kids who were born in Mexico as my parents went back and forth.
To California, we should make that clear.
California
yeah.
and Mexico to follow the seasons of, in this case, plums. We were following plums. Plums and tomatoes. And so when my dad left when I was 5, and the youngest was just born, and my oldest brother was 11, so yes, my mom had to raise us on her own. We had to find work wherever we could.
And you have memories of being really young, in the dark, in the back of the station wagon, heading somewhere.
Yeah, so I never really knew where we were heading because it was pitch black when we woke up in the morning, and you know, I couldn't see the signs, we couldn't read the signs. And it turns out my mom actually told me not that long ago that we were always going to San Jose in that particular time, San Jose, California, because that's where the plum orchards were. And so we did that for some time as a
And you were
child.
picking as old as, how old were you when you were picking fruit?
As long as I could remember.
So 3-4 years old, you think?
Yes, yes.
Were you ever scared, or was it,
No.
did it seem arduous?
No.
No.
No, it was like, I mean, there were 9 kids, right? We're all practically the same age, and I never really felt unsafe or that it was something we weren't supposed to be doing. What do you know when you're that young? So, you know, it's like a lemonade moment. It was like our fabulous snowball fights. Those were our plum fights were our snowball fights. So there you go.
And you grew up with a really kind of a lemonade philosophy, it sounded like.
Yes, actually, yes. I think all that was very, very helpful. You know, you don't really know what you're deprived of if you have no other point of context or relevance. So I never really felt like it was unique or perhaps even frowned upon.
And then I think about your mom, not only 9 kids, but your father left, or she made the difficult decision for him to leave. Describe that.
So yes, so my mom did leave my dad. She was abused. We saw it regularly, and so for someone like my mom, who was raised as a very strict Catholic, to make the decision to leave your husband as a divorcee, especially now that you have 9 kids to raise, out of the frying pan into the fire was a big decision. It was the right decision, obviously a very, very good decision for all of us. She not only taught us the value of a good education, raised us all in neighborhoods that were very close to the schools that we all went to, and we all went to Catholic schools.
Catholic schools, yeah.
All 12 years, by the grace of God, no pun intended, and some very fabulous priests along the way. But she sent us all off to college, so yes, all 9 of us went off to college.
Isn't that extraordinary? 9 kids went to college. Amazing. And what was it about your mom, and what lessons in life did she leave you that, that made her also such an extraordinary woman?
Yeah, so I feel like everything I've ever done and still do, I do for her and her honor and her memory. I mean, she's still with us, but since I moved from California, 6 years ago, it's like a foreign country. It's hard to be without her. She was living with us for a while too, so it's very hard to be without her. But definitely the value of a good education, first and foremost. Second was a good work ethic. I think for all of us worked very, very young, not just in the orchards, but also when we were old enough to have a job. So most of us started working at 14. I worked full-time through high school.
And you were the family breadwiner at one point, or the main breadwinner.
All of us were breadwinners, but I think I was working the most hours, and I was probably earning the most. And so yes, all through high school. But definitely, again, the education, the work ethic, and I think probably, the 3 F's of most immigrant families, which is family, food, faith, right? So family, food, faith, if I can count that as one, was definitely a big emphasis for her. So
tamales in particular.
Tamales, absolutely, tamales.
Homemade tamales.
Great memories of tamales. But there's 6 girls in my family, and still we remain extremely close. In fact, this summer we are finally taking the sister trip that we haven't taken since I moved here. So we're going to do it this summer in honor of my 50th. I think I can say that now. It's my 50th. So there you go.
So, then you went to Harvard.
I did.
And how did that go over when you suggested to your school counselor that you wanted to apply to Harvard? And describe the town. You should describe the town, too.
So I'm from Hayward, California, which is on the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. It's literally across the bridge from Stanford, probably 20 miles door to door where I grew up. So growing up, Stanford was like Mecca. Stanford was where you wanted to go. But in my high school, very few people would get in, much less the Ivies. The Ivies was, again, some foreign country out there, somewhere else. So I remember when I was applying, and again, I had 5 older brothers and sisters who had already gone off to college, all of them in California, in the UC system or one of the other fabulous schools. And for me, I actually remember, and for those who work for Time Warner, you may know one of my good friends, Lisa Quiros. I think she goes by Lisa Garcia now. But it was Lisa Quiros who called me my junior year in high school. So we're going on 33, 34 years. Holy cow. She calls me, and based on your PSAT scores, she was working in the Harvard admissions office. She scouted me and wanted me to apply. And of course I heard of it. Of course I knew what it was, but gosh, that means leaving home, that means leaving California, that means leaving my job, which was a big deal. But I applied, and I remember when I applied to 3 schools, Harvard, Stanford, and Berkeley. And yes, so I remember my high school counselor, when we're having our conversations about colleges, and I remember him saying to me, no one gets in. There's no way. No one has gotten in. No one's gonna get in. You should really kind of hedge your bets. He says, you really need some safety schools. And I said, well, I have 2. So, anyway, Lisa was very instrumental in encouraging me to apply, and so yes, the rest is history.
And we need to tell everybody that Rosie's portrait was unveiled at Harvard this week. The first Latina. The first Latina. And you've had other sort of, how was that, by the way?
First of all, it was a surprise. I didn't even know I was in the queue of having a portrait commissioned. I had no idea. It was actually almost a year ago this time. I was literally having breakfast with my mom in the Treasury dining room. And I got a call on my cell phone, and it was the university letting me know that the official portraiture committee had approved my portrait to be commissioned and displayed on campus in perpetuity I thought it was a prank. I had no idea what they were talking about. And after they explained, and I realized, oh my God, it's for real, and who recommended me and how the process works, the second I was getting off the phone, Secretary Lou walked into the Treasury dining room to grab a snack, and he sees me and he sees my mom, and he comes over to say hello. And of course, my mom, who should be my PR agent, just tells him immediately what just happened. So it was hysterical. So it wasn't a secret, I guess. So over this last year, it's been the live sittings, the photos, all the fun things. And so my family was able to have a private unveiling in February. So I had 14 of my closest family members fly out from California. It was the private unveiling at the portrait artist's house. It was absolutely beautiful. But the one that happened literally day before yesterday, Monday, was the college unveiling. And so it was, it's displayed in, and if anyone knows Winthrop House, oh my goodness, it's in the common room in Winthrop House. It's the only portrait in there, which is a little overwhelming. And
that's incredible. And you must have these kind of moments being at the top of your life now and looking back and, you know, your childhood. And you talked about recently visiting the agriculture department where they issue food stamps. I mean, you were on food stamps. You have this moment. Were there times you had doubts about whether you deserved to be where you, because of your mom?
No, absolutely. Okay. No, and again, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So growing up in my little bubble of, you know, the same 40 students that I went to school with, starting from first grade all the way through 12th grade, I guess I always did feel empowered. And again, I had, you know, fabulous siblings. I was very, very fortunate, but I also recognized that they were humble beginnings. And so yes, when I spoke at USDA for Women's History Month, there was about 500 people. It was actually really, really wonderful. But I did let them know, you know, as a person who was a recipient of food stamps, now talking to the organization that provides the food stamps, my point to them was, thank you, because your work matters. What you do builds families, it builds the future for many of us who otherwise would not have had a future. So actually it was great to come back full circle.
Very powerful. So we have to get to your current job because we have a lot to talk about, including these dollar bill, so I want you, can you talk quickly about your career, your real estate and economic development career preceding this?
So real quickly, there's basically been three parts to my career. It's always had this real estate finance foundation, always real estate finance from the time I graduated from college, working as an analyst for General Reinsurance, all the way through my period of working in the public sector on real estate financing for urban revitalization. So real estate finance has basically been the focal point. But it has led me through areas that have included probably equitably the private sector and the public sector. So I was the economic development and or redevelopment director for at least 4 or 5 different cities. Most recently, I was managing director of investments for a $22 billion firm based in San Francisco. In fact, we provided the equity on the Time Warner building, by the way.
Oh, well, there you go. And so that brings us to, and unfortunately we have to fast forward, your current job. And it was interesting, someone who will go unnamed just said to me, what does the U.S. Treasurer do? And I think that's in the minds of a lot of people. Yeah. What does the U.S. Treasurer do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm actually the first Treasurer of the United States to ever have this particular portfolio. So I was fortunate enough to be part of the Treasury Federal Reserve transition team right after the election of November of 2008. So there were 23 of us assigned on this transition team, and we were basically the ones who did all the due diligence for the Obama administration while the Bush administration was still in place from November 2008 through February of 2009. So as part of that reconnaissance effort, I had a chance to really understand what Treasury was and where it was going to go. And so I had no intention of being part of this administration whatsoever. That was supposed to be a short-term, you know, perhaps 14-week assignment, and I'd be able to go back to my home, my job, my mom, my kids. But I did find it fascinating what was happening in Treasury. Remember, it was the height of the financial crisis, right? So the sky was falling. My world of investment management, as probably most other worlds, was turning upside down. And it never would have dawned on me at the end of that term that my background in real estate, economic development, and investment management would translate into housing, jobs, access to capital. I mean, it was a perfect segue. Yeah. And so I chose this position intentionally for many, many reasons. One was I thought with the private sector background, to have this portfolio of coin and currency So the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, where we produce the currency, and the U.S. Mint, where we produce the coins, it's about 4,000 employees, and we produce, we make products.
And you actually have more coin and currency. We all thought we were going to a coin and currency-less society, and you actually have more.
We have actually exponentially grown in terms of our numbers. From, the time I came in, I think there was about $835 billion in circulation. There's now over 1.4 trillion. So,
amazing.
I mean,
and you've been
amazing.
to Fort Knox.
I have been. So
Can you
Fort Knox is
that?
under me as well. So all gold
Describe
reserves
walking
are
into Fort Knox.
So Fort Knox is, it's obviously next to Fort Knox, but it's a fabulous, amazing building. It reminds me when you access it, it's smaller than you think, by the way, but when you access it, if anyone is old enough to remember Get Smart, and all those windows and doors that open,
and
that's exactly what it
doors.
feels like. And the most humbling part is when you have to be weighed before you go into the vault, so that any metal that's detected, you're going to weigh the same coming out. So at least that's the intention. So it's actually very, very cool. It's these individual vaults of gold, and it is all there, absolutely all there. But my position is also more than that. I'm also the first treasurer to ever be a senior advisor to the secretary on issues of community development and public engagement. I'm the first person to be the chair of the Advanced Counterfeit Deterrence Steering Committee, which is the only formal collaborative that exists between Treasury, the Secret Service, and the Federal Reserve to provide recommendations to the Secretary on the future of currency, specifically on the technical pieces of security features.
Which brings us to this. I bet you're wondering why I brought these here. Okay, so subject matter, women on currency. There are 31 countries that have women on currency?
There are at least 31
I want our
today.
mentees to raise their hands if you have women on currency in your country. Come on, there must be some of you. Okay. We've had Martha Washington on a silver certificate.
The $1896 silver certificate was the last time we had an identifiable woman on currency.
Oh, so there you go. So, great, excellent. So we have had some, and I'm going to ask you to go through some of the coins we've had, but then let's talk about the movement for currency. So women on coins, what's our history?
Yeah, so for circulating coins, probably the most recent ones and probably most people are familiar with is the dollar coin, so the Sacagawea and the Susan B. Anthony coins. We do produce the first spouse coins. They're not circulating coins, though. They're a partner coin for their presidential dollar coin program, but they're not circulating coins. They're collector coins.
And Helen Keller's on the back of the Alabama quarter?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So that's sort of about where we are with women.
Yeah.
So that has started this movement, and it really started, you've probably heard about it, to dump Andrew Jackson for all sorts of very obvious reasons, and to put instead a woman. So there is a website dedicated to that, and I wanted you to talk about that. But you also, what people I think don't realize is that the $10 bill is next on your list of redesign to make it less counterfeiting, right?
Well, so yes, in 2013 we had sent up a report to Congress on our Meaningful Access Initiative, which is basically how to make currency more accessible for the blind and visually impaired. And in there we did identify as a public document that we were going to work, and we are working on the $10 note as the next to be redesigned. So the $100 bill that you might have seen that was issued in October of 2013 with that blue security ribbon, that was the last denomination of that family of notes. That's called NextGen. The next family of notes we're currently calling Catalyst.
Right.
But it's the $10 bill is the first one out of that.
So, and this is Alexander Hamilton, of course. There's a fabulous play on going to Broadway right now, and this was he's quite the revolutionary in that hip hop play. But what is your? Do you have an opinion on putting a woman on currency?
Yeah, so I'm certainly not going to talk about the other.
She can't talk about a lot of this.
But what I can say is we are currently in the process of working on the technical pieces that include all the security features. So as we speak, we are cultivating the security features that some are covert, some are overt that you will see on the $10 bill. We're also working on the tactile feature. So that is one of the pieces. It'll be the one that has, the first one that has a tactile feature on it.
So what's the likelihood that, I'm not asking you to divulge anything, but what's the likelihood, say in 10 years, that we would have a woman on a currency?
So what I can say is that it is the Secretary of the Treasury who determines currency design. But we have been engaging in a collaborative process to move the discussion forward.
You're moving the discussion forward, okay? And do you have a favorite woman that you would put on a currency?
Oh
if
my
you were
gosh.
king?
So the only criteria for putting a portrait on currency is, can anyone guess? The only criteria.
That's interesting.
You have to be.
You can't be a felon.
You have to be dead.
Oh, you have to be dead.
You have to be dead.
Okay, but you could be a felon.
I don't know if that's in there or not, but
Okay.
I would put my mom if I could. I would put my mom
Okay.
if I could, absolutely. Yes, my mom.
Your mom, that's awesome.
I would in a heartbeat, absolutely. Yes.
So just to wrap this up, you've got these mentees here. You've had this extraordinary life. You've had this also this incredible mother who guided you. What's your advice?
Be a constructive disruptor. And
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean that it's okay to be different. It's okay to make change. It's okay to forge ahead and never take no for an answer. And as long as you do it constructively, as long as you do it in a way, again, I'm a lemonade person. When life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. I try to redirect energy in a positive way so that the outcome isn't just for the sake of getting your voice heard, but getting your voice listened to, which is, again, more important. So I commend all of you. This is not easy for many of you. Jacqueline, this is your first visit. Jacqueline, this is your first visit to the U.S. I mean, can you imagine coming here? Those folks, our mothers, our grandmothers who came before us, who came here for the first time, how scary it is and overwhelming, but you're a risk taker. And what you're all doing is you're taking these risks, and you're doing it strategically, and I think that's the best way to do it. So don't take no for an answer.
Rosie, you're a true inspiration. Thank you so much.